Alright, hello people and welcome. This is the pre-game discussion, season 19. Diablo 3 is starting up tomorrow. I believe it's going to be 8 p.m. on my time, Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to have to double check that, I'm not sure, but find out as soon as I get home from work tomorrow, I guess. Just going to go over a little bit what I'm expecting this coming season for me. There are really no changes to the Necromancer other than the fact that Bone Ringer, which was one of the main components of the Thorns Skeletal Mage type of build, they nerfed it a little bit. I don't know exactly how much they nerfed it. It says you can stack it only up to 60 times, which is basically 60 seconds. And I'm not sure how much of a nerf that is, because I'm not sure how... well, I'm just not sure how often they go above 60 seconds using that. But anyways, it's not going to affect me too much because I didn't do that particular Thorns build. However, I am doing something similar to it. But there's really no other changes for me. I played a Witch Doctor last season. Absolutely no changes to the Witch Doctor, unfortunately. So this season, if I played a Witch Doctor, it would probably be the same exact thing as last season, which was almost the same exact thing as the season before, the Poison Dart Carnival. And I don't feel like repeating that again. So this time I'm going with the Necromancer. Also because I've got a couple of builds that I want to try with the Necromancer that I wanted to try the season before last. I just didn't have enough time to build it. So the season's theme this season is basically kill streaks. You just want to keep killing, and at least tagging your enemies without letting 5 seconds lapse in between tags or hitting enemies, because then the kill streak ends. How much of an improvement or a bonus that's going to be in a Greater Rift, I don't know. I think it's going to depend upon the build that you have. You know, if you have a build where basically you are just targeting elites, this is going to be of no help to you, because you've got to keep hitting your enemies. And killing them. But I don't know how many kills you're gonna find in a Greater Rift. I can't imagine. I mean, even if you could keep the streak going, I'm not sure how many kills there are gonna be total in the Rift. Definitely not 1,000. I can't imagine. But you know, whatever. We'll see how it works out. A couple of these thingies, cosmetic rewards, I don't know. I don't generally do too much with cosmetic rewards. Season journey rewards, I'm not probably going to do too much with the season journey other than getting the first 6-piece set. I believe for me, since I'm playing Necromancer, yeah, the Rathma set, which is unfortunately for Necromancer the only good 6-piece set is Inarius at this point. It's the only one that they really buffed a few seasons ago. They didn't buff this one or the other two. So I mean, you know, I'll get this one at first, obviously, but hopefully I'm gonna get the Inarius one, you know, as soon as I can. That's the one that I'll be looking for. Okay, but this is basically this is just telling you what you get for your kill streaks. Hopefully, the one thing that they haven't really said, I don't think, is whether or not kills by pets, tagging enemies with pets, whether or not that's going to continue the streak. It would be unfortunate if it doesn't, because then any build that uses pets is not going to be able to take advantage of this. All right, and I believe that's it. Mostly this season focused on the changes focused on the monk, the crusader, and the barbarian. They're the ones that are really getting a lot of new stuff. I've never played the crusader or the monk, so I really don't know. I played the barbarian. It's kind of fun. But this season, I want to play the necromancer just to try out a few things. And I'm going to go over those right now. So let me get in here. So, oh yeah. Oh, so the main things I'm looking for this season. Let's start up. I've got my necromancer here from, it's my non-seasonal one. I'm just going to go over a few different builds that I'm going to be kind of looking for. Should have them all set up and ready to view. So my first build, is it ready to go? Do I have it? I believe this is it. Did I change something? Okay, I changed a couple of these things around. Alright, let's save it. Okay, so the first build that I'm looking to get is the Greenie set, the Inarius set. It's the best one out of the 4 sets. I don't think anyone would dispute that. Probably going to be the easiest way to go once I'm starting to really push. And basically what this set is, and the way I like to play it, is it's a Grim Sith attack with this Leaguer's Disdain. And the two of those together can do some massive damage to the enemies, so long as you're attacking multiple enemies at the same time. The only downside to it is if you're only attacking one enemy, it's not going to do all that much damage, so you kind of got to be ready for that, prepared for that. So it's a combination of that plus the Corpse Lance Land of the Dead that a lot of people like to use, and that's what I use on my single target as long as my Land of the Dead becomes active. So what I usually like to do is I'll just go through and attack with my Grim Sith Leaguer's Disdain combination, and then once I reach an elite, that's when I turn on my Corpse Lance Land of the Dead. Seems to be a pretty effective combination. There are some downsides to it, but I don't know. I think it does pretty good. And for a starter set, for just basically a first build to be going for, I think it's going to do pretty well. So I've got the Wisdom of Kalan on here to double up the defense and so forth of the bone armor, but I could switch that out for the Johnstone just to do extra damage. I'm not sure which one's going to work better, whether I want the defense or the offense. I like this build because it allows me to wear Nemesis bracers, so my shrines and pylons will spawn a new enemy champion. Whether or not I'm going to do the Flavor of Time Squirts necklace, that's a good question too. That's something to throw into the mix here. I don't have those at this moment, I don't think. So I can't really test them necessarily per se. But then I've got Unity, I've got Crispin Sentence, and this Lornell Sunstone. Makes for some pretty good offense and defense. Frostburn. Now I could put on my Ring of Royal Grandeur and substitute maybe this for Depth Diggers to basically double the damage of my Grim Sith. Depends, you know. If I find a good set, I might go for that. I'm not really sure at this point. So yeah, I got the Grim Sith, and this Skeletal Mage with Singularity is necessary for this particular build because this combination really only works when you don't have any essence. So you hit and you've got to be able to empty this out, and the quickest way to empty this out is with a Skeletal Mage and Singularity. So you cast one of these things, it uses up all your essence, and then you go in for the hit with the Grim Sith. Corpse Lance with Land of the Dead, that's pretty obvious, I think, if you know anything about that. I like the Frailty, the Aura of Frailty. Could use a different one, but I like just to have this on all the time so I don't even have to think about it. And the Bone Armor with that increases your life per second per target hit. That works really well with this Molten Wildebeest Gizzard. But if I don't have that leveled up, you know, then maybe I'll switch this over to a different one, depending upon what my life per second is. So that's this build. I keep this one to keep my cooldown somewhat going well. And this is my second life one. Standalone, I use this one because with this particular build, the only minions I have with me are my Skeletal Mages, but I usually have at most one at a time out. Then my second life thingy, and this for an extra 15% attack speed when I'm attacking with my Grim Sith. So this is the build that I'm going for first. Something like this anyways. And then of course Dainty's Binding. What I want, maybe the Ring of Royal Grandeur, and then maybe, I don't know if I have the recipe. I should, but you know, maybe instead, I don't think I'd want to trade that in, but you know, go with the bracers, give up my Nemesis bracers, and maybe something else. I don't know, maybe. I mean, I might try it. Which one's this one? So if I went with this one, but the thing I don't like about this is I really hate giving up Dainty's Binding. That 48% damage reduction is really nice, and when used with this one, I almost always have it on. So I don't think I would give up my belt, but this one maybe I want the Ring of Royal Grandeur and keep this on. My problem is that the bonus really is only good against elites. In this season, I don't think I'm going to be focusing on just elites. So I'm not gonna be going after just elites. So maybe my bonuses against elites doesn't necessarily need to be all that high this season. All right, so once I've got this, I've got 3 builds that I'm looking at, and I'm just curious which one is gonna be better. I don't know if I'm gonna get them, but I'm gonna try. So this build here, this is my Grim Sith build. It's almost the same as this. This is what worked well for me in season 17. It's just I give up this Inaria set for items that basically do just about the same thing. So I still got Frostburn, Lornell Sunstone, Reliant Shadowhook in here. My skills are almost the same. Except here I've got Rigor Mortis. Do I want that one? I forgot to change that out. Let me change that out. I don't want Rigor Mortis. Because I'm not using poison. Gonna go back with that one. I don't know if I'll stick with that set or not, but This set utilizes the Legacy of Dreams. I don't happen to have that particular gem right now, but it'll be put in here. But it's basically the same idea. Grim Sith and Legger's Disdain. So I'm attacking the little guys along the way, and then once I run into an elite, it's gonna be Land of the Dead and Corpse Lands. Hopefully keeping, some good cooldown times. Hopefully I'll get them. But we'll see. I don't know how that's gonna work out, but this setup worked pretty good for me. This is what got my highest Greater Rift level in Season 17. I think I went back and forth between the Wisdom of Kalan and the Johnstone. They both work pretty well. This works very well with this and the other healing things that I have. The Molten Wildebeest, the Flesh Sustained. But what happens is when I'm wearing this and I get below 22% life, all my attacks are guaranteed critical hits. And because of the nature of the setup, I'm below 22% life a lot, but I don't die. Because once I get below 22%, this thing kicks in and I get a ton of damage resistance, and I'm healing fast. So I stay in there in that damage range, that health range a lot. And I've got Leoric's Crown just to double my health. I could change that, but that seemed to be the best for me, at least in that season. This ramps up the damage of my Corpse Lance. And I've got this. I love these. I love them. I had them on last season with my Witch Doctor. I think they'll work the best for this season too, at least if I get this build. Depth Diggers to give me an extra 95% damage to my primary skills, and that's what this is. And then my Illusory Boots to allow me to walk through enemies. And I believe their walls also. This setup, I think it did pretty well for me. So I'm going to be curious to see if it outperforms my other sets this coming season, because I will be able to do more with it, because I should be able to build up those kill streaks going after the little guys along the way, giving me damage bonuses. The problem I have with this setup, the biggest problem I've had, is that I'm splitting up my offense. I'm splitting it up between Grim Sith and Corpse Lance. And so like these Depth Diggers, they do a lot to help out my Grim Sith, but they don't do anything for the Corpse Lance.
There is someone out there who would benefit from our aid right now.
And then this Corpse Whisper Pauldrons really help out with the Corpse Lance, but they don't do anything for the Grim Sith. And so by splitting up my offense between two different attacks, it kind of hurt me because I don't know, it just seemed like I was splitting up my capability, and I just found it was better to really specialize in one attack. But even so, it still did the best for that season. But I didn't have everything I wanted, so maybe that's why it did the best. Maybe I could take this out and put in Bane of the Trapped instead. And that way, as long as I am close to my enemy, the damage will benefit both the Grim Sith and the Corpse Lance. I don't know, maybe. It's one of those things I'll have to experiment around with and see. So my next option, my other option, will be this. And this was actually the most fun for me to play. This is basically a pure Corpse Lance damage type of setup with the one sort of difference that normally with a Corpse Lance and Land of the Dead type of setup, people are focusing on just elites. With this setup, I am shooting out Corpse Lances all the time. Because I am using these gauntlets and I have a golem up. So my golem is constantly shedding out corpses. I've also got Blood Rush, so I'm shedding more corpses. I've got the Flesh Golem, so I've got corpses from there as well. So I've got plenty of corpses, and I'm hoping that with this season I can keep those kill streaks going by constantly shooting a corpse, shooting a corpse, shooting a corpse at enemies, and hopefully killing them as well. But at least I'll be able to tag enemies as I go, building up the kill streaks, getting the bonus damage, and getting the bonus to movement speed. So this one really helps in this build. I've got Lost Time on there, so my cold skills, and that's the one I use for the Corpse Lance, I use the cold one, reduces the movement speed of enemies by 30%, and my movement speed is increased by 10% for 5 seconds, so I can go pretty fast. And it really helps out my Crispin Sentence, so I do extra damage, a lot of extra damage, just by hitting with that. And I've got a Bane of the Trapped right there. I didn't know I had 2 of them. Ha, okay. And then of course the Bane of the Trapped. And I get to put on these Golem Skin Breeches for an extra 30% damage reduction. The one problem I did have with this setup is my Golem dies fast, especially at the highest levels. So I might have to use, I don't think I have the idea, I might have to use one of these so that my golem takes 90% less damage. But that's a huge sacrifice because I'm basically using this just to prevent my golem from dying. And I think that's one of the reasons why this setup didn't work so hot in season 17, because having to give up, let's say, this legendary gem for that other one so my golem doesn't die, it was just too big of a sacrifice. So I'm going to be curious to see if I can make it work this season. And I got this, so my movement speed is another 98% after casting Blood Rush. It was really fun to play. That's one thing I really liked about it. It was really fun to play, except for the fact, like I said, my golem kept dying way too fast, and that's unfortunate. But the setup that I'm really looking forward to, oh yeah, and I got this Life from Death. But basically, it's just this setup is just Corpse Lances. I've got the Bone Armor here for a little extra defense, but I've got the Corpse Lance. This gives me corpses, this gives me corpses, this gives me corpses, and I'm just constantly shooting out corpses. This is building up stacking up 20 times. I'm almost always at maximum stacks because I'm almost always shooting out corpses. And still got the Frailty, although I could switch that over to one of the other curses to get myself my extra damage here. But I'm just shooting out corpses, and then if every once in a while I'll hit Land of the Dead. And seemed to work really well, other than the fact that, like I said, my golem dies a lot. But the set that I really want to try the most is this one. So as you should know, probably know, the Bone Ringer has been nerfed a little bit. It caps out at a maximum stacks of 60. But this set is not really a Thorns Bone Ringer setup. This is actually a combination of a Skeletal Mage setup with the Thorns. And I think I can get it to all work together. And that's what I'm really going to be trying for this season. So I've got Ondariel's. So the basic thing is...
Does not rest. Neither should we.
Yeah. You got the this Heart of Iron to boost up your Thorns. And I got the Legendary Gem. I think the green gem in here works better than the yellow. Although I'll have to experiment with that to see. But then you command your skeletons to attack something, and then that's when they start stacking and stacking and stacking. Okay. But normally with that type of setup, that's basically all you do. But this season, we've got that seasonal bonus for attacking enemies. So the Thorn setup might still be good, but that Thorn setup is not going to be able to take advantage of the seasonal buff at all, because you'd basically just go after just elites. With this setup, this is a Skeletal Mage setup where you're a very similar part of, anyways, of the Skeletal Mage setup. So I've got Skeletal Mage is a secondary skill, so I've got an extra 398%, 400% damage there, as long as my bone armor is active. Alright, so my Skeletal Mages will deal a good amount of damage. I've got this ring here, which doubles the number of Skeletal Mages I have up, or that I cast. I've got the Devour on, this armor here. I devour all the corpses in the area to give me essence so that I can cast my Skeletal Mages. The more essence I have, the more mages I can have out. I think 10 is the most. And I've got this on for more corpses. And I've got my golem out for more corpses, and I've got this for more corpses. So I've got this to where I've got these health globes spawning up a lot. So should have enough essence to just be constantly casting out Skeletal Mages, casting out Skeletal Mages, casting out Skeletal Mages. I'm hoping that the Skeletal Mages will count towards the kill streaks and tagging enemies. I'm hoping. I really don't know. Won't really know until I get in there and start trying it out. If it doesn't, then I'm not going to be able to take too much advantage of the seasonal thing this season. The bonus for killing enemies. Hopefully it will. Hopefully the kill streaks will kick in with this, because I should be able to constantly be tagging enemies with my Skeletal Mage. But the bonus, the real bonus, is that I've got that, but I've also got the Bone Ringer Heart of Iron Thorns set up with it. So it's kind of like, it's almost like I'm taking the best of both builds and I'm able to combine them without too much sacrifice. The trickiest part of all, and this is going to be the real tricky part, is that Thorns setup with Bone Ringer really only works really well if all of your items have Thorns as a secondary skill. That's going to be tough, because I've got to get the right items with the right abilities and be able to put Thorns in them. So if I get, let's say, an item like this. See, I got this item here. In order to really maximize the Thorns, I would have to have switched out a secondary skill here. probably the health globes and potions granting 35% life. But that means I'm going to have some useless primary skills, or at least primary skills that aren't so good. So it's going to be really tricky for me to get all 13 items with thorns with good abilities in them. That's going to be the tough part. If I can get it, hey, great. I'm hoping I'll be able to get it. You know, some of these items already have thorns in them. All right, like these gloves here. So if it's already got thorns in it, great. I don't need to do anything to it. But if it doesn't, then it's going to be relatively necessary that I switch out something for thorns. You know, this one already had thorns in it. Well, okay, it's Heart of Iron. Probably expect it to. Most of these don't. So that's going to be the tricky part, getting thorns in my items. Commander of the Risen Dead. I do not have my second life one on here.
When virtue tarries,
Well,
evil smiles.
So this is going to be my ultimate goal. I want to see how well this setup will do. So, but before I can do any of this, I got to get to 70th level. So with my 70th level, just starting off, these are some of the tips and tricks that I kind of followed last season, and they worked really well. Make sure you get your pet and your follower early, right away, I guess. Do the challenge rift. I'm going to do the challenge rift, avoiding unity if possible. I haven't looked at the challenge rift yet, so I don't know what it is. Sometimes you may not want to open it right away, but I usually do. Going to get Kanai's cube. And then the Necromancer has an advantage where I'm going to be able to get a really good ability in my cube almost immediately, right at the very beginning of the game, which is usually a big benefit. I'm going to go after some boss bounties for some yellow items, lower the difficulty to hard at that point. And then after that, it's just trying to get kill streaks, which I have a tough time getting with the Necromancer. Hopefully that won't be an issue. Put a ruby into a socketed helm for a little bit boost to your experience points. Fields of Misery also works pretty well for kill streaks. Level 8, craft a two-handed axe and recraft it every 5 or 6 levels after that. I guess the two-handed axe does the most damage. Between 10 and 15th level, magical rings and amulets start to appear with the bonus damages, so I want to try and get those. Someone suggested bounties at 24th level for Born in Cain set. I didn't do that. I didn't bother with that. And then at 40th level, gonna craft a 70th level two-handed axe with the reduced level requirement. And they're saying that you should be able to get to 70th level if you follow all this and just play well. You should be able to get to 70th level maybe in 2, maybe 3 hours, depending upon how things go. So I'll be curious to see how that goes. That did not work out well for me last year because last year's challenge rift was really tough for me. It was a build and a class that I've never played, and I couldn't do it. I was just having a lot of trouble with it, and it probably took me an hour just to do the challenge rift itself. Because after I got the challenge rift done finally, then things went a little more smoothly. I think it might took me like 4 or 5 hours to get to 70th level. But that's going to be my first goal of the night tomorrow night. If I start tomorrow night, I might start Saturday morning. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But if I start tomorrow night, my first goal is going to be to get to 70th level. And then my second goal is going to be to get that Inaria, or I guess Rathma set, to do the, just try and get that first. You know, I'd rather have the Inarius, obviously, but you know, I'll take the Rathma set just to get started anyways. Let me see what the challenge rift is for tomorrow. Can't do the challenge rift until after the season starts and you create your character. So, but I can look at it. Okay, this might be tough for me. I've never played a Crusader. Yike. Well, I have no idea what half of this stuff does. The season before last, it was a demon hunter, and it was actually pretty easy. All you had to do was just run through and kill everything with your left trigger. Maybe that's how this will be with this guy too. I don't know. Alright, well, this is what I gotta do. You gotta do it, and you gotta get this challenge rift cash so you can get all your crafting and stuff, crafting materials, death breath, and money. It's really, really critical to get to 70th if you want to get to 70th level fast. So I got to do it. All right, people. That's a wrap for now. Season 19 starting tomorrow night, going for the Necromancer. Okay, I'll see you all then and there. Bye, everyone.